How's it going again, guys? Mr. Grosso is back for part 2. Alright, so we're still adding and subtracting with common denominators, but this time we're doing it with mixed fractions. So there's still all the same rules, still all the same practices, but there's a little bit more to be paying attention to because now you got whole numbers and fractions. So let's get started with some examples here so you guys can have a better feel for what's going on. So what I want you guys to try and do is to work with the fractions first and then the whole numbers. All right, because the fractions are gonna pretty much dictate like what you're doing here. It'll make a little bit more sense once we get down to C because you got some extra little bits here. I'll show you what's going on with those things. All right, first things first. Let's try and talk about these fractions here. So they already have common denominators. That's done and over with. So now we just got to add up those tops. So 3 plus 2 is going to give you 5 over 4. All right, and then now that we're done with that, you can add up those whole numbers. So you got 3 plus 7. It's going to give you 10. So this is the situation that we have a problem with. Because you can either have an improper or you can have a mixed, but you can't have both. So this little situation has to be rectified. So how many 4s can you get out of 5? You're going to get one more whole out of that. So now it's going to be 1 over 4 left over, but that becomes an 11. All right, let's take a look at a few more examples here. All right, this time there's a subtraction issue. So let's take a look at the fractions. You got 7/9 minus 3/9. It's very doable. 7 minus 3 is going to give you 4/9. And then 8 minus 2, just subtracting the whole numbers, is going to give you 6. Easy. Done. All right, so here's where we have a little bit of an issue. So if we're doing the fractions first, we're trying to subtract 4/5 from 1/5. Not able to do it. So normally when you borrow with whole numbers, you keep borrowing that 10 because that's how many it takes to get over to the next spot. It takes 10 of whatever you're talking about to make the next whole one. So when you borrow, you're getting that 10 back. But with fractions, it's different all the time because it depends on the denominator. So for this situation, 5 is what you're going to be borrowing because it takes 5 to make a whole. So this guy right here, all right, these are just going to be like click and drag situations. So I would click on that and drag it over. And that 9 now is going to become an 8. And I'm borrowing 5, not 10. I'm borrowing 5, whatever the denominator is, and I'm adding it to the top. So I'm bringing that 5 over from the whole number and adding it to the top. So now this is 6 over 5. So it's 8 6/5 minus 3 4/5. Now we can actually do the subtraction. 6/5 minus 4/5 is going to give you 2/5. And then the 8 that we have from the borrowing minus 3 is going to give you 5. All right, we're going to do another one of these borrowing ones because I know it's a little weird. So let's do a few more examples just overall. So what do we got here? We got a positive 5 1/3 and a negative 7 2/3. So again, remember, if you're going to subtract these things, always do the larger or longer number up top. Make it easier for yourselves. All right, so 7's definitely bigger than 5. So we'll do the 7's here. So we got to do 2/3 minus 1/3. I know it says plus, but remember, this is a positive, this is a negative. So we got to subtract these two things because they're opposites. And since this one's the bigger one, this is the one we're starting with. So 2/3 minus 1/3 will give us, with the fractions here, 1/3. All right, and then 7 minus 5 is going to give us 2, but remember, there's way more negatives in this one. So it's going to be a negative 2 from those whole numbers. All right, let's check out the fractions on this bottom one here. I should say the middle one, but the bottom of these guys still common. This is a negative 6 4/7, and this is a negative 3 5/7. So both of these guys are negative numbers. So same sign, keep an add, just like the song. So if we add up that 5 and the 4, all right, we're going to get 9/7. Remember, you're not going to put a sign on this and on the outside number. It's just that outside whole number. So now that we got the fraction figured out, now we got to do the whole numbers. So we got a negative 3 and a negative 6. That's going to come together and give you a negative 9. So again, we have this improper fraction over here that we got to change. So remember, it shouldn't be a mixed and improper, just mixed with a proper fraction on the side. So how many 7s can you get out of 9? Only 1. So it's going to give you 2 7s left over. But remember, now we're adding it to this one over here. So instead of it being a negative 9, it's negative 10. All right, and then here's one more with the borrowing. So we got a larger negative here and a smaller positive here. So again, since they're opposites, we got to subtract. And since this one's bigger, we're going to start with this one. So we cannot have 3/8 and then take away 7/8, so we got to borrow. And remember, when you borrow here, since we're talking about these fractions, we're borrowing from that 8, and it's going to be a 7. But how much are you borrowing? That's what the denominator dictates. All right, we're borrowing 8. So when we're borrowing from that whole number out here, we're borrowing 8 to add to this. So this is now 11/8. So we're going to do 11/8 minus 7/8, and that's going to give you 4/8. All right, now we got to take a look at the whole numbers. Now we have that negative 7 instead, because we had to borrow, the negative 7 and the positive 1. So 7 minus 1 is 6, but there's way more negatives, so it's going to be negative 6. All right, and then this over here is just letting you know that that should be simplified. This could be an equal sign or an arrow, just something indicating there's a little bit more to do. All right, it's not always going to be there, but for the ones that I'm giving you guys on Google Classroom, yes, trying to help you guys out. So the negative 6 is going to stay the same, but the 4/8 simplifies because you can divide both by 4. Divide that by 4 gives you a 1. Divide that by 4 gives you a 2. And like I said, the whole number stays the same. So remember, guys, like these are the last examples. I do have copies of these in the assignment for you guys to be able to refer back to. But if you want, you can always listen to these videos and watch how things happen. All right, and go through it again, pause it, rewind it, whatever you need to do. All right, and then when you guys are done the assignment, remember to submit it, and you guys are good to go. All right, I will talk to you guys next time. See ya.